Okay.
How did I get started? I'm from a family that sings. I did not want to sing as a kid because I didn't think I could.
But where you
I worked
where exactly are you from though? What's are you?
Orlando, Florida.
Oh, you're from Orlando. Okay,
From
okay.
Orlando, Florida. Yeah, at home of Disney World,
Yeah,
SeaWorld, all of the Universal Studios, tourist capital of the world, believe it or not. Yeah.
yeah.
But that's where I'm from, born and raised. And as a kid, my mother sang with the Florida Mass Choir. My sister sang and played the drums for the Florida Mass Choir.
Wow.
And they were really heavily, we were really a family that was really heavily involved in church. I know you've heard stories where if you were Kojic, Church of God in Christ,
Yeah.
there were certain things that you couldn't do. Women couldn't wear makeup. Women couldn't wear skirts that were higher than the knees, or even
Wow.
with the knees, they had to be low. Couldn't go to movie theaters, couldn't go to clubs, couldn't play anything other than gospel music. If it didn't have God or Jesus or talking about angels or anything talking about the church or the Christian faith, you were considered secular, and I would get whoopings or beats
Wow.
if I played anything in my mother's house, which didn't stop me, by the way. I was
Okay.
a fan of music as a kid.
What were
And
you
the first,
listening to then?
everything, everything as a child. And think about it, I grew up in the projects in the hood. Yeah, I grew up in Orange Center, and in some projects over there, and then we moved over to Mercy Drive, yeah, which was the Palms, and it was really crazy over there. I mean, like shootouts all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty rough over there, and still is. And I drive through there pretty fast. But
Wow.
showing my family like this is where I was raised, especially my kids, like this is where I grew up at. And it was pretty scary. But as a child, you just thought the whole world
Was
was
like
like
that.
that. So
Yeah.
until I got into middle school, and then I started visiting some of my friends that were black that didn't live in the hood, and I was like, "What do you mean you don't live in the hood? What hood you repping?" You know what I'm saying? It was like, "No, we live in this particular community over here," and I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And that's basically my escape, from that type of mentality or staying in the hood. I respect the hood. I respect the hustle. A
Yeah.
lot of the guys taught me a lot about, hustling and hard work in the hood that I grew up with and
But
around.
are you
So,
saying that by going to middle school and seeing people who were like you but didn't live in the same lifestyle
yeah, oh
gave
yeah,
you a sense that, there should be more than
there
what
sh-
I'm seeing?
absolutely. There should be more. They lived in nice neighborhoods, middle class families that were making really good, parents making pretty good money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I remember my first person I stayed the night over at a friend's house. Actually, I didn't stay the night over there because my mom wouldn't allow us to do that. So I got mad at my mom, for good reason, because my mom was really, really strict. She didn't, like I said, she didn't let us play, any other music besides that. And at that time, we talk about the 80s, where my favorite type of music happened in the 80s. I listened to rock. I listened to, it was the evolution of hip hop that was coming on.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
a part of a rap crew in middle school. I was beatboxing and
Okay.
singing hooks and stuff like that. And my crew was pretty crazy at that time. So we were kind of beating everybody. We had this guy named Dre. We had a guy named Priest Baker, and then this guy named Fred Freeman, who we called Double F Class Key. That was his name. It was so funny. But that was the evolution of hip hop. That was coming up,
Yeah.
and I couldn't take any of that back home, so I had to secretly listen to it. And my aunts stayed in the same projects with us, and they were the total opposite of my mom. My mom was all church. We had church all day on Sunday. We had Bible study on Wednesday night, Friday night service, and
Oh
then
my goodness.
Saturday choir rehearsal. So it was a full routine schedule all the time. And anytime my mom would ask me to go over to my aunt Deborah's house or apartment to borrow some sugar or some eggs, I would run over there, and I would run over there as soon as she let me in. I was like, "Please, Aunt Deb, just take your time." And I would go through her album collection and look at all the covers from the SOS band, the Gap
Oh,
band,
the Gap Band,
you know,
okay.
uh, Parliament Funkadelics. And my introduction to Michael Jackson's Thriller album, with him
Wow.
laying on the cover with the tiger and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah, yeah,
I got
yeah.
you can listen to some of that stuff. And when my mom found out, I would get whooped.
Oh goodness.
I would get beat. Yeah, she called it the devil music, and that's how she felt.
But then at this time though, where you said you went into the singing,
I
you were
was
more
not. I was not into singing, and my mom sang, my brother sang, my sisters sang, and normally we would be driving home from church or somewhere, and everybody would always go shotgun, in order to sit in the
the
front
front,
seat of the
yeah.
car. Yeah, everybody knows that. But if I got shotgun, regardless if I was the eldest or not, I got to beat the drums, beat on the dashboard,
Okay.
and make beats while they would sing songs in the car, just like
Wow.
that. Because a lot of times the radio didn't work. Mama didn't have a car that had an 8-track that worked. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
8-track, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I would sit there and I would be, beating the drums and then beating on the dashboard, and everybody be singing in the car. We having a good time. And then one day my mom asked me to sing a song, and I knew I was totally embarrassed to sing anything, And my mom, you let her tell it if she was living. You let her tell it that she put me on program at like 4 or 5 years old, and I sang this song called "Do Lord, oh do Lord, don't you remember me?" Something like that, which was really cool. And I don't remember any of that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
at this point in the car, my mom was like, "Okay, it's your turn to sing, Junior." And I act like I didn't hear my mom. That's the worst thing you would want to do with my mom. She should only ask you to do something once. And if you don't respond, she's gonna hit you. It's just simple as that.
Wow.
She don't care where you are. She's gonna knock the air out of your lungs. Simple as that. I'm in the front seat, so I'm within range.
Yeah.
Actually, in her car, she can hit you here, she can hit you here, she can even hit you behind the back. So she didn't care. If she had something, she'll hit you with that. It was just a respect thing. And so at this point, I'm acting like I don't hear her. And she said, "Sing something." And my mom said it twice. And before I can say anything, she hit me in the chest, and I'm crying and beating on the dashboard.
Wow.
I was like, "Mama, you gonna say I sound like a frog?" Now, mind you, I'm crying at the same time and trying to talk to her. So imagine what that's like with the air being hit out of my lungs at this point. And so she says, "All right, sing whatever, blah, 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 blah." And I go to sing a song. She said, "Ooh, baby, you sound like a frog." And now, of course, here's my confidence. I'm like, "I knew it. Thank you for validating that, Mama." Like that. So my mom she heard something in me that I didn't even recognize in my own self. So,
But then at this time, were you thinking that with music you could become one of the people on the albums, or did you just think, what was it for you? What was
not
this?
at all. It didn't happen until I was in. It didn't happen until I was in middle school. When I was in middle school, I noticed that my friends, and my brother, they were making an impact, with singing these songs or singing songs at church, and you know what I'm saying? And I saw how it was making people feel. Not that I was trying to be a star, I just saw how much joy music brought people. Even in the hood at nighttime, the guys that would be hanging outside, selling drugs or doing whatever, they weren't hanging out playing on the playground. You know what I'm saying? They were out doing their thing. But even then, it was all music based. We stayed our apartment faced the park, inside the projects where everybody hung out at. They either played, and then they were battling each other, break dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. There was a guy named Greg, who was probably the dopest pop locker in on the whole drive, Mercy Drive. Yeah. And so it was we were always surrounded by music, and that was my ear. My bedroom, me and my brother's bedroom, faced that park every day. So I got to hear all types of music, and I loved it. And our neighbor downstairs, Rodney, he was a DJ. So he would DJ at the AM station. So our bedroom was right above his bedroom. So I would put my head to the floor and listen to all the records he would be spinning. And so I couldn't escape it. I loved music.
Yeah.
But at this time, it was just something beautiful about it. You know what I mean? So I knew I had to sing gospel in my mom's home. But when I went to school, you had a choice to choose an elective by a certain time. And if not, they were going to put you in an elective, meaning like band, chorus,
Yeah.
art or whatever. And they put me in the band, and there were no more drums left. You know what I'm saying? So they put me in the position to play trombone. I hated playing trombone. Yeah. And
Yeah.
my mom could not afford to pay for the instruments either. You know what I'm saying? So, but I knew being in choir, I wanted to be in choir at that point in middle school, And so I talked to my mom to convince them to let me out of band and put me in chorus. And my selling factor was like, the instruments, they don't have any more instruments, which they didn't. And mama had to rent the instrument.
Okay.
And to rent a trombone, it was going to cost you a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? And so my mom said, baby, that's an easy fix. I'm putting you in choir. Done. And I think her name was Miss Garrett, the chorus teacher in middle school, if I remember correctly. But she was amazing. She would get there early, and any student that was into music was allowed to come to the class early and jam out. And then me and some friends would get there early, jam out, sing some songs. And at that time, New Edition was popping.
So was it Mr. Telephone Man, Candy Girl, or which one?
It was before It was before Mr. Telephone Man. We're talking about Is This the End?
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
There's a jealous girl in that town. All of that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? All those like Candy Girl.
Yeah.
Those moments.
Oh goodness, I remember those. So yeah.
I was in love with New Edition, and I always felt like if anybody got kicked out the group, I wanted to audition to be in New Edition. And I still feel that way to this day.
I'm sure.
That won't happen. But that was always my dream. And anytime I could sneak and watch their music videos, I always studied how they're dancing, their work ethic, I forget the guy's name, it just slipped my mind. The one that was always over them rehearsing and putting the group together. I always thought he was amazing, and I always carried that same motto, just keep working, keep practicing until you get it right. You know what I'm saying? So by being surrounded by all this music, my mom was, like I said, she was very musical, but she only listened to gospel music.
Okay.
If she listened to Aretha Franklin, it was gospel Aretha Franklin. Mahalia Jackson, gospel Mahalia Jackson. James Cleveland, gospel. When I got chastised or whooped with a belt, it was to Sandra Crouch, Walter Hawkins, any of that stuff, or the Color Purple soundtrack. That's what it was, Namdi. That's exactly what it was. And I couldn't escape it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Mama, she would always go to this place called Rent-A-Center and get the best speaker system or stereo system. Like the speakers would be really tall, 18-inch speakers.
My goodness.
What I'm saying? My mom was really dope. But when Mama went home and she was working late shifts, you know what I would play through that system? Because bass music in the state of Florida was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, the Ghetto Boys, all of them, they had bass in their music. So
not Luke, not Two Live Crew Luke.
Yes, Two Live Crew, and one of his dancers named Cindy, who I had the biggest crush on. Her cousin lived in the hood, and she would come and visit from time to time, and all the guys would go, Cindy! And I would put the system up on high school, it's in the park, and I would play, hey, we want to party. And it wasn't party. It was, hey, we want some.
Yeah.
And then there was throw that. Yeah. I don't say those words.
Yeah.
But I was bumping it in the system. It was bass. It was bass. Then Run DMC was hot and popping. Okay. And then Beastie Boys was popping. And I would play that stuff. And then one day Mama came home early from work. And I was jamming. I had it pumped up so loud. I didn't hear my mother walk through the door. She saw me. She just immediately went to beating the fire out of me. But before she did, my friends downstairs that was partying in the park, they was like, yo, mama is right there. And she saw me. I looked back and she was literally right there and just went to swinging. Pop, pop, pop.
Wow, goodness.
It didn't stop there. I still kept doing it. I just love music, all types. It could have been White Snake. It could have been anything, you know, Guns N' Roses, anything. I just loved it all.
This is